Hello, my name is Mark. I'm a physician in the United States of America. And there are some great things about being a doctor in this country. As we physicians in America make efforts in the care of our patients, we have ready access to the widest array of diagnostic testing, treatments, therapies, highly skilled and knowledgeable specialists and researchers in the world. Our medical people are ethical, dedicated, creative. They're enthusiastic about what they do. But there are some lousy things about being a doctor in America as well. We lack an organized and efficient system for delivering care to those in need. As a result, some people go without care. Others get well-intentioned but misdirected care that really ultimately hurts them. Our nation's system, so-called, is really just a patchwork of programs which meet some needs for some people, but they often do so in a wasteful and even harmful way. I often feel like we physicians in America are agents in a devil's bargain. It's obvious that the same efforts that we are making to cure people and to help people are ultimately poisoning our nation, financially and otherwise. How do we deal with health care in America? How do we heal it and save our economy in the process? Well, we must start by rejecting the notion that we have a right to health care, a right to the resources of other people to meet our health care needs. Instead, we must see health care as a good thing that we really want to provide to the people of our nation to the very best of our ability. Only then can we set and accept reasonable, manageable, and necessary limits on our expenditures. More importantly, only then will we overcome the dependency that we have fostered, which hinders our pursuit of health. We must return to all Americans both control of and responsibility for their own health care. We could do this by permitting and promoting voluntary, private, tax-free contributions of funds by individuals to their own health care accounts to be used only for their own personal medical needs. These accounts would be held by private banks, not the federal government, and they would be managed according to simple rules. We would allow unlimited contributions to these accounts by individuals, and payments from these accounts would only be allowed for medical purposes and needs. We would establish complete individual ownership and liberal use of these funds for medical needs. They could be used for payment of insurance premiums and co-pays, provider services, medications, therapies, etc. These funds could be transferred from one person's healthcare account to another person's healthcare account to facilitate contributions toward those in need. We would allow tax-free donations to the accounts by other private individuals or employers as a benefit. And we would allow tax-free inheritance of these funds in these accounts by beneficiaries when people pass away. This would encourage a sense of complete ownership over the funds that a person has set aside for their medical needs. Now, how about balancing the books? Well, participants in this program would be required to forfeit any claims that they have to any other federally funded or state-funded healthcare programs, both at the present and in the future. Federal tax revenues would decline with increasing participation in a program like this, as individuals diverted increasing amounts of income toward these healthcare accounts. However, increasing participation would at the very same time reduce and could eventually eliminate the need for our medical entitlement programs by this provision. We must establish and respect limits on public funding of healthcare for those in need. It's clear that the people of our nation want to contribute to the medical care of those in need. That's a good thing. But we must subsidize those with low income, advanced age, or extensive medical problems from public revenues according to limits. We would do so by means of contributions directly to these very same healthcare accounts that I've mentioned, but we would do it according to a budget. We could facilitate enrollment in this program, especially for those who qualify for public funding, by means of trained agents and counselors, streamlined processes which could be initiated by providers at the point of care. We would create and maintain means for providers to confirm availability of funds at the point of care. And we would release medical providers from the obligation to provide services to those who are lacking resources, except in the case of a true emergency. Now, it's important that we establish that what constitutes a true emergency would have to be determined by the provider, not by the patient. And standards of care and medical judgment, which of course result in legal liability, as well as increased competition amongst providers, would discourage them from refusing service except in obvious cases of misuse and abuse of the system. We could reimburse providers for bad collections for care given in this fashion at a significantly reduced rate, perhaps 50% of their charges, and assess these reimbursements against the budget for public funding. This would provide some protection for providers of emergency care and encourage charity care, but would discourage providers from carelessly engaging in unfunded service, for which the government would have to pick up the tab later. Cost shifting by providers would be reduced using this provision, and this provision would also still allow for adherence to the budgetary constraints that we've set.